this undeniable rush when that email finally lands in your inbox,
Oh,
a
yeah.
contract offer. You're about to trade the American gridiron, your whole life in college football or maybe some small semi-pro league for Europe or Asia, somewhere completely new.
You're getting paid to play the sport you love, see the world. I mean, it is absolutely the dream.
It is. It's the dream. But here's the harsh reality check. The setup, especially for American football imports coming from these superstructured college or pro systems, is just, it's vastly, fundamentally different when you move to the international semi-pro scene.
Oh, completely. It's so easy to get tunnel vision, right? You're just focused on the game, and you completely overlook the logistics that could derail your entire season.
Exactly. And we know that you, the listener, you shared these sources with us that detail this crucial pre-signing checklist. It's like the non-negotiables that determine whether your overseas experience is a highlight reel or a disaster movie.
Right. One involving an apartment you share with 7 other people and no heating.
Yeah, exactly that. So our mission today is simple. We're giving you the shortcut to understanding every single question you absolutely must ask, and maybe more importantly, why you have to ask them before you sign on that dotted line.
We're going to break down that due diligence step by step. But let's start with the immediate, most crucial warning the sources all emphasize. This is the big one. The absolute non-negotiable red flag.
Okay, let's unpack this right away, because this is where teams can sometimes they expose their own financial instability, or they're just trying to test how desperate you are.
Yeah.
You should never send money to the team.
Yeah.
Never pay for anything up front, even if they swear they'll reimburse you the second you arrive. We're talking flights, housing fees, visa costs, anything.
And we really need to sit with this for a second because it happens all the time. If the team says, oh, we can't handle the expense right now, and they insist that you pay for something essential for your arrival, the sources are crystal clear.
What do?
You just tell them to deduct that cost from your first month's salary. Simple as that.
So why is this so important? What's the risk if I just, pay the $500 for the flight and wait to get it back?
The risk is leverage, or a total lack of it. If you arrive and the housing is a mess, or the team is already late paying you and they still owe you that $500, you have zero power.
You're already there.
You're in their country, you're dependent on them. This rule protects you from getting stranded or financially squeezed by a team that just doesn't have good cash flow.
Got it. Okay, and while we're on this reality check, let's talk about the money itself, because this is not the NFL. It's not even a U.S. minor league.
That's right. So while a contract gives you security, which is absolutely essential, you have to internalize the financial reality before you pack your bags. You're probably going to be taking a huge pay cut compared to a standard 9-to-5 job back home.
Right.
The salary plus all the benefits, the housing, the flights, the food allowance, it's all designed primarily to cover your expenses and keep you fed. So you really need to manage your expectations. You're very, very unlikely to save any real money.
So we've established this is more of an expense-covered opportunity, not a wealth-building one. If we pivot from that big picture, the actual financial framework in the contract still needs to be, airtight to prevent stress. Let's dive into Section 1, the contract specifics.
Absolutely. The first layer is just pure numbers and dates, and you need total clarity. What is the precise salary amount, and what is the specific currency?
Oh, that's a good point. A fluctuating currency could really make a difference if a payment is late.
Exactly. And then, how often are you getting paid? Is it weekly? If it is, what specific day? Or is it monthly? If so, what's the exact date? You need to know that stuff.
Yeah, because you need to know when your rent and bills are due compared to when you actually get paid. Vagueness on payment frequency is it's a recipe for a cash flow disaster in a foreign country.
And bonuses need the same level of clarity. What's the bonus amount, what currency, and what specific action or achievement actually triggers that payment?
Right, you need something tangible, something verifiable, not just, if the team shows commitment.
No. Is it winning the league? Scoring 3 touchdowns in a game. Make sure it's measurable.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting, because if salary stress is number 1, housing issues are definitely number 2, and the sources, they really emphasize that this needs minute detail to prevent that disappointment the second you step off the plane.
Correct. You have to request the exact address, actual pictures of the house or apartment, layout information.
Like how many bedrooms, bathrooms.
All of it. But the key thing that separates a professional setup from a semi-pro one is occupancy.
What's the worst case scenario here? Am I sharing with one person or am I going to be sharing with 5?
The worst case, which is sadly pretty common, is triple or even quadruple occupancy in a small apartment that was designed for 1 or 2 people.
Wow.
So you need to know, Is it single occupancy or is it shared? And if it's shared, exactly how many other people will you be living with? Because friction starts real fast when you have three huge guys trying to share one tiny bathroom.
I can only imagine. And then you've got the hidden costs, right?
Yeah.
Utilities. Who's paying the rent? Who pays for water, gas, and especially electricity?
This is so vital. In a lot of European countries, heating costs in the winter are astronomical compared to what you're used to in the US. If you have to pay, you need to know exactly how much your monthly contribution is going to be.
You don't want your first paycheck just gone, wiped out by a massive utility bill.
Exactly. And of course, confirm you'll have Wi-Fi.
That level of detail on where you live leads right into the daily logistics of just getting around. Transportation is so key for punctuality and, frankly, for your sanity.
For sure. Is the team giving you a bicycle, a shared car, a public transport pass? If it's a shared car or bike, you need to know how many people are in that rotation.
And the big question, if you get a car,
Yes.
can you use it for private journeys?
Yes.
You don't want to be stuck only driving between your apartment and practice, unable to run errands or see the city on your day off.
Absolutely. And will you get a gas allowance? If so, how much is it? How is it paid out? If it's public transport, the team needs to confirm they're paying for the pass and that it actually covers your route to practice.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of living and getting around. Now let's talk about the workplace itself. Since football is your #1 priority, vetting your training environment is what's next.
What's fascinating here is that, unlike a big university campus where everything is centralized, overseas semi-pro teams often operate in a bunch of different locations.
That's right.
So you need the exact address of the main club or training facility. And critically, how far it is from your housing. Is it a 5-minute drive or a 45-minute bus ride?
And if the gym is separate from the field, you need the gym's address, maybe its website, pictures if they have them, and crucially, who is paying the membership fee?
Right, because you don't want them to expect you to cover it and then get reimbursed later. That takes us right back to our first warning.
Okay, moving from facilities to equipment, and most importantly, safety gear. Is the team going to provide everything, or are there specific things, pads, cleats, that you need to bring from home?
But the very important point here, and the sources use build text for this, is medical insurance. Injuries happen. The team absolutely must confirm you have coverage. And this is why you can't just take their word for it.
Wait, so I need actual proof. Are the sources saying that teams sometimes misrepresent the coverage they offer?
They're saying you need to confirm the type of coverage. Is it just standard travel insurance, or does it specifically cover high-contact sports injuries, rehab, emergency medical stuff? You should ask for proof of the insurance policy.
The policy itself?
Yes, including the start and end dates and details on what it actually covers. If you get hurt, you need to know you won't be paying for an emergency surgery out of your own pocket.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, let's move past the documents. The most direct way to get a real reality check is just to vet the team's history.
Absolutely. The goal here is to bridge that gap between what they promise and what they deliver. You need to ask the team for contact details, name, email, phone number of former import players or coaches.
And if they refuse?
That is a massive, massive red flag.
So if you get a contact, what are the key questions you should be asking these former players?
Ask about payment consistency. Were they ever paid late? Ask about the housing. Did it look like the pictures they sent you? Ask about the coach's communication style, if the team actually delivered on their promises for equipment and travel. Honest feedback from someone who's lived it is it's priceless.
Well, okay, let's turn to the complexities of the arrival itself, starting with airfare. And we have to reiterate the main rule here.
Let me guess. The players should never be asked to pay for airfare.
You got it. And teams should be buying refundable tickets and sending the confirmation directly to you.
Why refundable, specifically? Well, if the contract falls through last minute, or there's some sudden visa issue, you don't want to be on the hook for a non-refundable international flight. You need to confirm who's paying the team or a sponsor, and you need the exact travel dates for both getting there and for coming home.
Also, the flight route itself.
Yeah.
Is it direct? Are you going to have to change planes? How long is the layover?
Yeah.
And make sure you get confirmation that someone from the team is picking you up at the airport.
Oh, for sure. You do not want to land in a new country totally exhausted after 15 hours of travel and be scrambling for a taxi while trying to deal with a language barrier.
Right.
Next up is the visa. This is technically your responsibility, but you have to discuss it with the team because they have to provide supporting documents. You need to check with your local consulate for the correct type of visa visitor, work, professional, student, whatever it is.
And the sources specifically mention that American citizens can usually stay in Europe's Schengen area for up to 90 days without a formal visa, but you have to check this personally.
And that 90-day window is so key. If your season is longer than 90 days, you must have the correct long-term work permit. If the team tells you, oh, just come as a tourist, they're asking you to break immigration law. That puts both you and the team at massive risk.
Moving to daily necessities.
Sorry?
Food and your phone. You're going to be hungry and pretty isolated when you first land. So how many meals a day will the team cover, and how is that structured?
Is it a daily cash allowance, or is it through partnerships with local restaurants? If it's cash, you need to know the daily amount and how often they pay it out, daily, weekly. And if it's a restaurant partnership, you need the names and addresses of those places to check them out.
And for your phone, which is obviously vital, will the team pay for a prepaid SIM card? How often will they top it up? And a really critical practical tip from the sources: you have to unlock your phone before you leave home to use a European SIM.
Yes. If it's locked to a U.S. carrier, that new SIM card is completely useless.
Okay, we have nailed the logistics, the paperwork. Now we need to shift focus to what the team will actually expect from you, the import player. Because the job description goes way beyond just playing football. This is where the cultural context really matters.
This is the absolute essence of semi-professionalism. Football is, of course, your #1 priority. You're paid to play, but you're also there to be a leader, an instructor, a kind of cultural ambassador.
You have to set the example.
Exactly. Be on time. The sources literally say you need to be the first to show up and the last to leave.
And if the import player is late or skips film study, then the local guys, who are probably unpaid volunteers, they'll instantly feel like they could do the same thing.
And that leadership role extends right into coaching. It's standard to be expected to coach junior teams or B teams. Your expertise is a resource the team is paying for, and they will use it. That means helping with practice plans, film study, game planning.
You're basically a full-time football resource, not just a player for 3 hours a week.
Right. And then there's the most unique expectation in this whole semi-pro world. And this one really surprised me in the source material. Helping with team jobs, fundraising.
What does that even mean?
This is critical to understanding the economics. A lot of these teams do physical jobs in their cities, like providing security for local festivals, cleaning parks, simple construction, to earn the money that helps pay for you.
Wow.
So when they need volunteers for those jobs, the import player is expected to be the first one to show up and help out, sometimes doing pretty tough manual labor.
So I'm basically doing a job that helps fund my own salary. That is a huge mindset shift from the U.S. college model.
It is, but it helps you manage the reality of the situation. Your teammates, they all have families, school, jobs, lives outside of football. Their commitment levels will vary. You're likely the only paid full-time player, and participating in these jobs shows everyone you're fully invested in the club.
It shows you're not just there to collect a paycheck.
Precisely. And speaking of attitude, the sources have a big check here. Do not complain about the facilities or the fields. Soccer is king. American football teams often get the last pick of fields, times, and city money.
So you just have to maintain a positive attitude and make do.
You do. If the field is rough or practice is at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, that's just the reality. And remember, you're going to be known in that city as that American football guy, so don't bring any negative attention to yourself or the team. Your conduct reflects on the whole club.
And given that your commitment level is so much higher, you have to prepare for a lot of downtime, right, when everyone else is at work.
Boredom is inevitable if you don't plan for it. The recommendation here is essential for your mental health. Save up your own money before you go so you can travel and see the world on your days off. Don't let boredom eat you alive.
Yeah, you'll regret not making the most of it. And practically speaking, start learning the basics of the local language. Even if English is widely spoken, just making an effort goes a really long way. The sources recommend Duolingo as a simple way to start.
And one final communication tip to wrap this up. If you arrive and something is not what you expected, the housing's wrong, the pay is late, talk to the coach or team manager immediately.
Don't wait.
Don't wait and let it build into resentment. Clear, honest communication solves problems before they become crises.
That was an incredible dive into the nuts and bolts of signing an international contract. To sum it up, the core mission of this deep dive was really to provide that security framework. The contract offers protection, but your diligence in checking every single tiny detail, from who you're living with to demanding proof of medical insurance, is just It's paramount.
Especially when you're navigating a semi-professional environment where the culture and the expectations are so different from the U.S. model. You're moving into a system that relies on volunteers, on local support, on really low-level financing. Knowing that reality before you go is essential for a stress-free season.
Yeah, the sources make it so clear this is more than just an athletic opportunity. It's a really profound cultural one. But what stands out to me is the high degree of professional responsibility placed on you, the import player. You're paid not just to play, but to lead, to coach, and to actively help the team raise the funds that keep it afloat.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to mull over. The sources highlight that most of your teammates have these other lives: family, school, work. If football is truly your job for those few months, how does your elevated commitment level and that expectation for you to fundraise change your personal accountability to the team? And how does that difference in priority amateur versus professional affect the overall team dynamic when you're the only paid professional on the field? It's a tension you'll be living with every single day.